All right, welcome to Christian Overcomers, and thank you for joining us. Say, Obama's at it again. You know, he was at a news conference the other day, fake crying and carrying on, trying to get people emotional and trying to get people to say, you know, we gotta stop. Now is the time to stop people from buying so many guns. And you know what? It's so, if guns don't protect people, then Obama ought to have all of his bodyguards be disarmed, as well as all those other politicians that speak out on against guns and want gun control. Well, you tell your bodyguards to carry a bat instead then, if that's how you feel about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. And the problem we have with guns and mass shootings today is not law-abiding citizens. And it is what we really have is a demonic problem. We've got a religion that teaches people to kill other people and themselves in mass killings. And we have these video games that some of these kids are playing today. Some of these troubled kids where they role play shooting people up all day long to the point where they've become calloused to reality, separated from reality. And then I have no doubt that by playing those games, that these children open themselves up to demonic influence and demonic possession. So that's the real problem. We don't have a problem with law-abiding gun owners owning guns. But nevertheless, hey, why are these things happening? Why do they want to take our guns away from us? Because they want to control us. And you know what? It is actually part of God's curses upon this nation for turning our back on Him. It's a hard thing to say, but it is. That's what's happening. And if you go to Deuteronomy 28, it talks about all these things that we're seeing today. Where God says, hey, if you follow my commandments as a nation, you will be blessed. But if you violate my commandments and ignore my word, you will be cursed. Even to the fact where God said He would let the strangers, the foreigners, come into our land, take it over, not only take it over, but oppress us. I think it even talks about the women being ravished by them, raped. And we see that the Islamists are doing that today in other countries. These things were written about. We were warned of these times. I'm going to read it, in Deuteronomy 28, God says, hey, if you don't listen to my commandments, He says, I'll go to here, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. We just got done talking about the land grabs by the federal government today, that the ranchers are protesting. Here it is right here. You shall plant vineyards, and you shall have lands, but you will not enjoy them. They'll be taken away from you. Now here in verse 31, it says, thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and thou shalt not be restored unto thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. In other words, they're going to start taking everything from us. By oppression, by invasion. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. That's already happening in our public school systems. We don't call it, I don't want to offend anybody because I know people aren't in this position, not everybody's in the position to homeschool or do private school. But we call public school government school because they're indoctrinating, the government is indoctrinating our children with their values of tolerance and diversity that doesn't include Christianity and is anti-Christianity in its morals, etc. So our children are being taken over by another people. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always. That's why we're hearing so many people stating their grievances. Why so many people are unhappy. Because God has allowed the curses to come upon our nation. We got all these liberty movements today that want freedom and want to restore liberty. But it starts with turning back to God. You will never get it any other way, my friends. It won't happen. There's a verse that says, except the builders trust in the Lord, they build it in vain. And we don't want to do that. In other words, God says you're going to be mad, you're going to see all this stuff, you're going to become angry, you're going to be frustrated. And he goes on and he says, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. This is happening. You got Obama. I feel Obama. Obama claims he's not a Muslim anymore. He was a Muslim in his youth. But he's always praising Islam and damning Christianity. What does that tell you? What do you think he is? It doesn't take a smart person to figure out that he's got to still be holding on to his Muslim faith. Anyways, it goes on. It says because you're gonna be punished for all these things. It says because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, and for the abundance of all things. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And it says he's going, and then continuing on down to verse 52 of Deuteronomy 28. It says, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest. You ever hear about the Constitution? They bypass that now. That was our high fenced wall. The gates are our places of government, of business. The enemy has invaded. The enemy is holds the highest office of our land. Yes, the Constitution is important, but we don't want to put all of our trust in it as our protector. We need to put our trust in God, to turn back to Him. Otherwise, these things will continually get worse, as they already are. We elect all these politicians, these conservatives. The conservatives supposedly control the Senate and the House. But yet they're not doing anything for us. Why is that? Because it is God, not man, that can save us. throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee. Who? The strangers, the foreigners. He shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And then it goes on. He says, we're going to be in distress, and so on. And then God says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord thy God will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring thee all of the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave to thee. And he goes on and he continues on, says, at the end here of Deuteronomy 28, he says, and the Lord shall bring thee again into Egypt with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And that's what's happening today, because we've turned our back on God. We keep electing these so-called conservative politicians that are not standing up like they should for God's moral law. So is it a surprise that Obama's trying to take guns from its citizens? No, it was written all the time that the enemies would come in and besiege us in all of our gates and make us oppressed, frustrated, upset, sad, even to the point scared for our lives and for our safety. So will it ever get to the point where they take our guns away? I don't know, but I know they're going to try. And by reading on in this chapter, if we don't turn back to God, it appears as though that will be the end result. Gun confiscation from American citizens. Well, hey, you know what? We need to pray for our people. Pray for our country that God will raise up leaders. We need to pray that our leaders will seek Him, that our people will seek Him instead of being infatuated with the boob tube and all the other distractions. Because if we don't, again, take out Deuteronomy 28, read the whole chapter, and that will be our fate. Christian Overcomers is brought to you by the tithes and offerings of our listeners. If you'd like to support our ministry, please go to ChristianOvercomers.com. God bless you, and thank you for your support.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of His terrible sword. His truth is marching on.